Hey again! Welcome back to Daily Dose of Anime Recaps. In this video, we'll be covering episodes 1 through 4 of the series, The Testament of Sister New Devil. In the initial scene, Basara's jaw drops to the floor once his father Jin reveals news of his two incoming new stepsisters, namely Mio and Maria. Still confused, Basara excuses himself for a bathroom break so he may have a chance to put his thoughts in order. What's funny is that, by a mere chance, he ends up accidentally peeking at Mio, his new stepsister. Mio obviously isn't willing to buy any of Basara's lame excuses and labels her new elder brother as an opt-out pervert. Next morning, though, she still shows up to wake up her stepbrother in a rather lewd fashion. Just when the two are getting along decently well, Mio discovers an X-rated video game hidden under Basara's blankets. To top it off, Basara actually trips and as a result knocks Mio down as well. This further intensifies Mio's suspicions regarding her new stepbrother's morality. Thankfully, Maria clears Basara's name soon by clarifying the situation. Guess what? The little twerp is indeed the true pervert out of the three, since she was the one who snuck that indecent video game under Basara's blankets previously. Later on, to make them feel more like family, Jin arranges for a photography session and snaps a selfie of the four of them standing next to each other. In the evening, Mio is harassed by a group of lustful delinquents. What's funny is that instead of acting scared, the bold Mio instead threatens to kill all those rascals 100 times over. Just when things are about to get ugly, Basara appears out of nowhere to rescue his damsel in distress stepsister. The daring dude first sprinkles salt in the eyes of those rascals and later slips away on his bicycle with Mio in tow. Basara learns how his father Jin is leaving for abroad in a rather hasty manner. Jin doesn't clarify the situation though, simply claiming for the venture abroad to be a necessary one. The previously comedic series takes on an intense and dark undertone from henceforwards. For one, as soon as Jin leaves, the house becomes dead silent, and even all the light switches are switched off all of a sudden. In the darkness, Basara makes his way to his stepsister's room and asks if there's anything they need. Upon receiving no reply, Basara at first assumes how the two must be feeling awkward now that Jin is gone and they're stuck all alone with him. However, Maria soon tells Basara to buzz off forever and never come back again. Basara obviously feels a bit funny since who the hell asks somebody to exit their own home? Anyhow, his pupils soon widen in surprise once Maria uses magic to shove him away. She then explains how the world is inhabited by both demons as well as heroes. Coincidentally, Mio happens to be the future demon lord, and as such, Maria is her faithful attendant. On a side note, it becomes obvious why Maria is such a pervert. After all, you can't expect any other sort of behavior from a demon succubus, can you? As of now, Mio wishes to turn Basara's home sweet home into her base of operations within the human world. To that end, she even had Maria manipulate Jin's memories, making him believe how he's supposed to be remarried soon, and therefore gives shelter to both of the girls. Not playing cute anymore, Maria now threatens to mold a couple of Basara's memories, making him believe he's the one who chose to quit after not getting along well with his new stepsisters. Unexpectedly, Basara remains unaffected by Maria's voodoo spells. He then claims how he was right about there being both demons as well as heroes. After all, he himself happens to originate from the village of heroes and is therefore a part of their clan. At present, the infuriated Basara feels humiliated at having had his emotions played with and therefore kicks them both out of the house. Later on though, he changes his mind once Jin calls and reveals how Mio's life is at stake thanks to the current acting demon lord. Turns out, her father Wilbert happened to be a peaceful demon and was therefore abhorred by many of his warlike subordinates for that very reason. In the end, Wilbert gets assassinated, and as his heir, Mio is being hunted down since the enemy wishes to confiscate her immense inherited strength. On the flip side, Mio feels guilty as well at having toyed with somebody else's emotions and swears an oath to never do it again. Unfortunately, a shadowy demon starts attacking both her and Maria as they are about to leave the area. Just when the helpless Mio is about to be pierced through, Basara makes a stunning entrance and slashes apart the enemy. He then claims both girls as a part of his family, and as proof, he even shows them the photograph they took together earlier. Both girls are won over by Basara's considerate attitude and willingly go back with him. At home, Maria suggests for her mistress Mio to enter a master-servant contract with Basara. Doing so will guarantee Basara's eternal loyalty and allegiance to Mio and her cause. She lays the same proposal in front of Basara as well, well. Astonishingly, Mr. Do-Gooder easily gives his consent to be Mio's slave thanks to Maria's silver tongue. What's funny is how Maria's spell malfunctions, resulting in the future Demon Lord Mio ending up as Basara's slave girl instead. Still shell-shocked, Mio simply refuses to display her fealty by kissing Basara's hand. Unfortunately for her, saying no isn't an option anymore. As it happens, Mio is soon inflicted with a curse as punishment for her insubordination. What's more, since the perverted Mio was the one who cast the spell, the curse appears in a lewd fashion as well. Simply put, so long as Basara doesn't caress her all over her sensitive spots, there's utterly no way the embarrassed Mio can stop squirming and feel at ease. Meanwhile, Basara himself feels a bit awkward at first since Mio is supposed to be his sister of all, sort of. However, he soon complies with his role of relieving Mio under her pervy attendant's continuous instigation. Later on, despite being relieved, Mio feels awfully embarrassed and gives Maria an earful for betraying her master in such a sinful way. Though of course, the little pipsqueak deserved any punishment that came her way. On the following day, Basara accompanies Mio to her school since the considerate dude had switched colleges after his sister's arrival. Since its first day, the teacher assigns the class rep named Yuki Nonaka with the task to help him better adjust to the new school. Things go south after Basara receives an out-of-the-blue tight hug from Yuki. Upon careful thought, he realizes how Yuki happens to be a childhood friend from back in the village. Anyhow, Mio, who had previously been set on keeping her distance from Basara, now flares out in anger after witnessing Yuki acting all chummy with Basara. As a result, Mio acts out her utter jealousy by claiming now that she's been living under the same roof together with Basara. On a side note, both Yuki and Mio are hailed as the college's two princesses and are therefore the target of many men's efforts. Not that Basara is lucky enough to attain the favor of both these beauties. It's only natural for him to garner a heckload of envious dudes as his enemies. Surprisingly, another classmate named Yahiro isn't the least bit bothered by Basara's luck with the chicks and even befriends him. Later during break, Yuki invites Basara for a private chat and strongly suggests for him to boycott contact with Mio. From her words, Basara deduces how Yuki must be the one designated by the hero village to keep an eye on Mio in secret. Basara of course denies her request, claiming how Mio's had enough of tough times already and how he wishes to help her out and protect her in the future. Afterwards, Yuki casually slays a lesser stray demon being attracted by Mio's immense dormant strength as the future demon lord. She then elaborates how the village may update Mio's status from being a target of observation into a target for elimination once her existence starts to cause upheaval and threatens the human society's peace. Once that day comes, Yuki's duty will bind her to personally slay Mio, even without Basara's consent and the cost of him resenting her forever. Later on, we learn how Mio and Maria have been eavesdropping on Yuki's conversation with Basara in the school cafe earlier. As a result, Mio's heart is suppressed by guilt since the dude is willing to do such great lengths for her, and yet she can't do anything to return the favor at all. Of course, who better than the perverted Maria to cough out ludicrous and lustful ideas when it comes to looking for ways to please and satisfy their stepbrother. Anyhow, Maria's vivid imagination leads to all three of them having a rambunctious cake party in the bath later that evening. Though Basara is soon unable to bear his two sisters' gentle yet seductive teasing and soon passes out thanks to a nosebleed. The following day at school, Basara is charged with helping the class rep Yuki organize summer task assignments. As always, his proximity with Yuki turns Mio jealous, causing the wretched curse to activate at such a horrible time and place. Basara therefore accompanies Mio to the infirmary, where the school nurse named Chisato suggests for him to befriend wisely and be considerate when categorizing his friends and enemies. Receiving such an out-of-place advice, Basara simply shrugs it off and labels Chisato as an oddball. Soon after, though, a blackout occurs across the school building while Basara is out for a stroll with Yahiro. Soon after, a bunch of lesser stray demons pick up on Mio's strength and come looking for her. To avoid revealing any secrets, Basara simply lands a cruel elbow on Yahiro's gut to knock him out. He then proceeds to clean up the lowly demons and rushes back towards Mio at the infirmary. Unfortunately, Yuki came looking for Mio before he did and currently stands confronting the future demon lord on top of the school roof. As the two girls face off against each other, Yuki calls Mio out for having selfishly involved Basara in her own private scuffles. Mio retorts by pointing out that Yuki herself isn't any good either, since she's been going against Basara's will all this time. Just like that, both girls fail to find any common ground and simply resort to force to settle matters once and for all. Sadly enough, Mio still hasn't used her power and therefore is still on the losing side almost immediately. Thankfully, Yuki doesn't wish to hurt Mio and stops launching any attacks once Mio's magic barrier is broken. Instead, she's simply recounting the story of tragedy from 5 years ago, rendering Basara useless when it comes to fighting. Ever since that horrible experience, Basara lost his will to fight, and therefore it takes a significant toll on him each time he wields his sword again for the sake of Mio's cause. On the flip side, Basara finally has a eureka moment as he utilizes the master-slave contract mark to pinpoint Mio's location. Soon he reaches the rooftop and is of the mind to question both girls for their misdemeanor. However, he's soon interrupted by a mysterious stranger with a mask on. The masked stranger indeed happens to be the one behind the sudden assault by tons of lesser stray demons. The stranger soon resorts to talking gibberish with his silver tongue, planning to convince Mio to surrender without even putting up a gift, winning him a flawless victory. He points out how Basara's life may become at stake as well once her status is updated into an elimination target by the Hero Clan. After all, the Hero Clan members surely won't jeopardize the society's peace for the sake of a former exiled hero. He further reveals how both Basara and Maria have been running loose these past few nights, slaying any lesser demons inside so as to help Mio avoid becoming a target of the Hero Clan. While talking, one of the stranger's lackeys launches a sudden sneak attack against the unaware Mio. Afraid of hurting Mio should he use his sword, Basara instead utilizes his own back as a meat shield to protect her. The current miserable scenario makes Mio feel unreal as she starts screaming and apologizes to Basara at the top of her lungs. The masked stranger of course leverages this opportunity to further manipulate Mio's emotions and to arouse guilt in her for bringing such pain to Basara. In the meantime, Yuki gives in to her rage and launches an all-out assault against the enemy. Unfortunately, Mr. Mask is just too quick for her and is therefore able to avoid all her attacks with ease. Soon he leaves after once again reminding Mio of the dreadful consequences of having involved others in her futile struggle against the current demon lord. In the battle's aftermath, Yuki helps heal Basara and later departs as well. Meanwhile, back at home, the injured dude is reminded of his childhood 5 years ago. Back then, he had been the Hero Clan's prodigy, as well as hope for their bright future. Unfortunately, a war-craving tractor named Saito stole the sacred sword, Brynhildr, and was also bewildered by evil spirits in the process of doing so. Having lost his consciousness, Saito simply heads for the village and starts slaughtering his own clansmen instead of heading to the demon realm. With his friend Yuki's life at stake, little Basara involuntarily activates his innate talent, resulting in the annihilation of many other folk along with the enemy himself. Back in the present, Mio finally musters up her courage and surrenders herself to the masked stranger for Basara's sake. Far as she's concerned, her stepbro's safety ranks higher than both her inherited powers as well as her own life. What's astonishing is how Yuki pops out of the blue at that instant and prevents Mio from being taken hostage by the enemy. Turns out, she had a change of heart after witnessing Mio cry so desperately back when Basara got injured. Also, Mio being willing to sacrifice herself for his sake even further clarifies why Basara chose to protect her in the first place. Regrettably, the masked stranger's strength is too much for Yuki to handle alone. The girl is soon overpowered by the enemy and is at risk of being exterminated. Even so, Yuki chooses to stand her ground and safeguard Mio for Basara's sake. After all, it's only thanks to Basara that she's even alive right now. Thankfully, Basara is able to pinpoint their location and intervenes in time to rescue Yuki. He then uses banishing shift shift his innate talent to put up an astounding fight against Mr. Mask. Previously, he had used the same move to swipe Saito out of existence years ago. What makes Banishing Shift horrifying is its ability to nullify all sorts of attacks by deflecting them into the zero dimension. With this, Basara is finally able to dominate the battlefield and defeat his foe. However, the victory cheers and celebrations are cut short once another wretched lesser demon pops out of nowhere and thrusts his sword into Basara's gut. The sight makes Mio go nuts, as soon her immense dormant power starts overflowing and acting all crazy. With the current scenario, Mio may as well explode in a minute or two at max. To rescue his beloved stepsister, Basara makes an effort to stand up again despite being critically injured. Not daring to mess around with Mio's life at stake, Basara simply utilizes Banishing Shift to eliminate only the excessive overflowing power while leaving Mio herself unharmed. In the past, Basara had been left traumatized after having harmed his comrades due to a lack of restraint. That said, Yuki feels genuine pride in the fact that Basara finally learned how to harness his power with precision and control. A couple days later, Basara confronts his buddy Yahiro on top of the roof and expresses himself as the wretched masked demon from a while back. However, instead of attacking each other, both form a truce, hoping for a win-win situation. Yahiro is afraid of Basara exposing his past failures to his authorities, resulting in him being punished as well as replaced. As for Basara, Yahiro's replacement is bad news as well, since a far stronger foe may replace him. Secondly, despite having had plenty of chances to corner and annihilate both him and Maria, Yahiro chose not to do so, resulting in him having won Basara's respect and trust. Before leaving, Yahiro reveals how someone who goes by the name of Zolja was the one who butchered Mio's parents previously. Soon afterwards, both Mio and Yuki start bickering over who gets to be with Basara and to whom he belongs. Finally, we witness Jin calling someone mysterious on the phone, discussing who knows what about his son Basara. From the looks of it, there's still plenty more for us to learn about Basara and his past. This wraps up the episode's end, and we are left pondering several mysteries. For one, to whom had Jin been addressing on the phone just now? And also, what else is there to be revealed about Basara in his grim past? Furthermore, will Basara continue to support Mio in a diligent manner, or will he experience a change of heart and abandon her forever? Last but not least, will Basara continue to be at odds with Yahiro, or will both of these frenemies be able to find common ground together and together achieve the best outcome, resulting in a win-win situation? We'll surely discover the answer within the next couple of episodes of The Testament of Sister New Devil. And in case you're a subscriber with notifications enabled, you'll know as well soon enough.